the process. I can't give you 10 minutes. I know our style now.
I'll be presenting with my colleagues, so
no problem. I'll give you 10 minutes.
I don't.
We don't have some other people. We'll just go as far as we can go. 10 minutes. Class rep, please.
It's okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Be the timekeeper.
Okay, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay. Good evening, class. Good evening, Doc.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The title of our presentation is Land Acquisition and Electricity Undertakings. And I'll be presenting with my colleague, Kola Wole Gbemisola Elizabeth. She will begin the presentation.
Thank you for the introduction. Go ahead. Is your colleague not in class?
She's in class, sir. She's in class.
She appears not prepared.
She's in class. Elizabeth.
She appears not prepared. You introduced her and she's quiet.
It's okay. It's okay. Let me start.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Our work, we have the abstract, and then in the introduction, we said that we saw that right to own land in Nigeria is subject to certain qualifications, which include the power of governor to revoke right of occupancy on account of overriding public interest. And then we saw that the Land Use Act includes electricity undertakings as public purpose for which land may be revoked. And then we said that the unbundling and privatization reforms of the electricity sector necessitates a re-examination of the mode of acquisition of land for electricity undertakings. Then we have conceptual framework where we defined land, we defined acquisition, we defined electricity undertakings. And then we have the legal and regulatory framework where we have the Constitution, the Land Use Act, the Electricity Act, the Environmental Impact Assessment Act, the National Electricity Regulatory Commission that has the following regulations in place, which includes acquisition of land access rights for electricity project regulations, 2012, and the Nigerian Electricity Supply and Installation Standards Regulation, 2015. Then in our 4.0, we talked about the land tenure in Nigeria, where we saw that the legal context of land tenure in Nigeria consists of a mixture of traditional and state systems. And then we saw that before the introduction of the Land Use Act, the land tenure system was based on the premise that land belongs to communities, villages, and families. Therefore, the right of disposal belongs to the community and families only. And such disposition has to be through traditional authorities or family representatives in accordance with traditional law. And this position was reaffirmed in the case of Abudu Lasisi and Oladipo Tubi. We also saw that one of the features of traditional African communities with regards to land was the attachment of the people to their land because of the cultural, spiritual, and tribal significance of land to them. And this made the process of government land acquisition and compensation lengthy and strenuous, constituting a delay to public government projects. And with regards to this, the Land Use Act tried to resolve the issue by vesting all lands in Nigeria on the governors of states who hold in trust for Nigerians. Therefore, mere right of occupancy is what land ownership offers. And ownership is now disaggregated along individuals as against family structure. Then in our 5.0, we saw that the primary right of acquisition rests with the governor of states as contained in section 28 of the Land Use Act, which gives the governor the right to revoke a right of occupancy for overriding public interest. And section 51 of the Land Use Act defines public purpose for which land can be acquired to include electricity undertakings. Then in our 6.0, we saw the procedure for revocation of land for electricity purpose under section 77 of the repealed Electric Power Sector Reform Act. And under this procedure, we found the following issues or concerns with the procedure. We found that revocation of right of occupancy is one of the major problems with revocation of right of occupancy is that it leaves the landowners at the mercy of the beneficiaries and governments, where the landowners often end up getting meager compensation for their lands. And we said that this betrays the central objective of a liberalized electricity regime, such as the reformed power sector in Nigeria that is commercial in nature. And then we contended that the Land Use Act can no longer justifiably form basis for revocation of a right of occupancy for overriding public purpose in the reformed electric power sector of Nigeria. Because the old NEPA era, where electricity sector was wholly, exclusively state-owned and government-controlled, is contemplated under the Land Use Act. Then other issues that we saw was the right of repurchase at an amount equivalent to the compensation that was paid, as at the time the land was previously revoked. We said that this it betrays commercial reality. And then the role of NEC to direct the terms and conditions the licensee may offer the right of occupancy to any other person should the previous holder decline the offer of repurchase. We said that NEC is supposed to be concerned with regulations and should not be involved in transactions between a licensee and the person who wants to acquire. If the former holder of the rights refuses to repurchase. And then we also looked at host community concerns, where we said that adequate consultations with affected communities and informed consent is imperative before acquiring land, especially where the land is of such sentimental value to the community that parting with it would affect their way of life significantly. Then also we looked at the Electricity Act 2023 that repealed the Electric Power Sector Reform Act. The Electricity Act introduced two modes of acquisition of land for electricity undertakings, and they are voluntary acquisition by the licensee and compulsory acquisition by NEC. And then one of the major advantages of these modes over the revocation procedure of the former act is that it affords landowners the right to receive commercially realistic amount of money for their lands against the revocation procedure, where the landowners are at the mercy of beneficiaries, licensees, and governments, and may not receive adequate compensation. Then the Electricity Act also introduced project affected persons, that is, individuals or communities who are likely impacted by the acquisition of land for electricity projects, to be consulted and participate in the planning, implementation, and monitoring of the acquisition, and also to be part of the resettlement procedure. Because the Electricity Act equally introduced a resettlement action plan and project impact assessments. These are introductions of the Electricity Act. We, however, noted that the Electricity Act retained the role of NEC to direct the terms and conditions of sale in case of decline to repurchase by the previous holder. And it failed to provide, and the Electricity Act failed to provide a comprehensive procedure for compulsory acquisition, for compulsory purchase, as was the case under revocation in the repealed, because Section 77 of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act has a procedure for revocation, which was not contained in the, that kind of procedure was not contained in the Electricity Act for compulsory purchase. And we said that it calls for legislative action. And then we concluded by recommending that considering that the nature of the reform power sector is private sector driven, a socially equitable and community friendly land acquisition framework is imperative for sustainable power sector in Nigeria. And then we said that NEC should encourage voluntary acquisition of land for electricity projects as against the compulsory purchase procedure, except in instances where it is not, where voluntary this thing has failed. This is also contained in the Act. And then we said that stakeholders should encourage transparency and accountability in land acquisition for electricity undertakings. And also that the Land Use Act should be amended.
You have a minute. Hello, you have 1 minute left.
Okay, and also, okay, I'm almost through. And also that the Land Use Act should be amended to reflect the true nature of the reform power sector in place of the public purpose contained in the Land Use Act. So that is it. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, let me see if I'm muted or I'm unmuted. 1 minute. Okay, yes, I hope you can hear me. Yes, okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Darashuku. I thought you said you had your colleague in-house to support you. Apparently, you are
I don't know.
you are alone here.
She appears to be. She's in the group. I don't know. Maybe Elizabeth.
Is she afraid to intervene?
She's online. She's in the class.
But muted, not by the system, but by herself. Elizabeth, let's hear your voice. At least let's be sure that indeed you are here and that your colleague is not telling us what is not. Elizabeth, Mr. Darashuku, next time you tell us something, we'll check it out again, no? Over and over again. Well, it's okay. That's just by the way. So thank you for the presentation. Yes. I want to believe that the topic just discussed is something that we are all familiar with, the issues of land, how the actors in the sector would get land for their own purposes. We know what it used to be when we had NEPA. And I agree with your postulation that now that it's all commercial, there shouldn't be acquisition whereby people are just paid pittance for their land, because the companies involved are also making a lot of money. So everything should be commercial, even though people should be given opportunities to have the land when it is required for their purposes. So we have had the presenter. So let me ask class rep, what has been the procedure? I know that we used to have just 5 minutes to discuss a paper. So we asked for people who have contributions, or if you have questions, you can ask them. And if you see gaps in the paper that you think need to be filled, you tell us. And if you have perspectives, either in support or against the presenter's position, you also let us know. This is an area that I think we all have opinions. So land matter is a very sensitive matter, especially in Nigeria. Land is gold. Land is gold, and we know that people kill themselves over land disputes. But because when government is involved, or any entity that's connected with government is involved, they come up with some legal regime, that tends to give them some advantage, whereby they don't have to operate under the regular or general land law, whereby a seller or whereby a buyer, must negotiate directly with the seller and pay the current or prevailing price. So, class rep, is it 5 minutes? What I used to do, I think that's what we did last semester, 5 minutes to discuss. But if we have an interesting discussion, then we can take much more time. So, we have contributions, questions.
Uh,
Questions.
uh,
We don't want people disturbing us, so whoever is not talking should please mute. If you want to speak, you can unmute, then we hear your voice. Contributions, please. Or questions for the presenter. Do I take it that there is no contribution? We would want to take it that the presenter has given us a perfect paper. Nothing to add, nothing to remove. Okay, I want to ask a question. My question is this, and it's related to a life issue. And a service provider, the electricity service provider, put their pole on a private estate, on somebody's private land. And if, for example, that happens, will the owner be entitled to request that it should be removed? So I'm throwing that to the class now, based on an experience that I'm aware of. I'm waiting. You did not contribute. No ask question, and I've asked the question, and nobody is even answering. You don't have any idea? Don't you have
If the
somebody
land was appropriately
in this class?
acquired, sir.
Sorry? Okay, Mr.
If the
Falade.
land was appropriately acquired, yes, sir. If it was appropriately acquired, with due contracts agreed on or reached, there will be no need for them to remove their property from it, sir.
Okay. But if it was not acquired?
If it was not acquired, we may hound them to remove their property from it, it may result into a legal issue where that is when ADR or dispute resolution mechanism will be triggered, but by and large, I believe it's going to be resolved, whether by ADR or legally, because it may not be easy for them to start packing their things when they have put them there. We may want to look at it from the angle that where were the owners of that land when installation was being done on the land, so they have slept on their right to react at the appropriate time. That is the way I would view it, sir.
Okay, well, that's also a good point. But assuming, for example, it was put there in error. If, for example, okay, the owners were not around and the pole or the installation was put on the land, let's assume that it's not put in the central part of the land, maybe just by the periphery, because they didn't know that that part of the land belongs to the land. They thought it's just because, in my opinion, they are supposed to put their posts on the right of way that everybody can pass, and not on somebody's land. If, for example, they not put it on somebody's land, is the person entitled to request that it should be removed and put where it ought to be?
Well, sir, the way I'm going to look at it there will be going to area of compensation, because it's government that is now using it. Yes, I can request that they remove their pole from my land, but at least I'll be looking at it from the angle that it is government that is using it, and that is what I think the 1970 Land Use Act, those are part of cover. So there will be agreements, I believe, because they may not be able to remove the pole again. Even if there are, let's say there are 2 or 3 poles there, it means that to remove it, we'll see the consequences. It will affect not less than 15 poles around those 3 poles. And that will cost time, money, and it will disrupt power wherever those ones are supplying. So what I see at the end of the day is there is going to be discussions and compensations will be made. That's my opinion, sir.
Yeah, thank you for your contribution. So let me pose another question. Assuming the pole was put, you can see that when I'm talking about pole, it's not talking about a major installation. Maybe let's say high tension wire, a pole that carries the high tension wire. Assuming there is an alternative, that could be explored, do you think that the service provider should not move it, or they can insist on putting it on your land and you lose the right to ask them to remove it?
Well, just like you said, there are 1 or 2 things we are going to put into consideration. Yes, if there was an alternative, well, then, yes, they can remove it. But then I'm looking at it from this angle, sir. Removing 1 pole, sir, it means that the consequences will not be easy. It won't be easy because the pole definitely will not be the last that will enter their what do you call their land now? The transmitting area or whatever. So rather than remove it, it is discussions, agreements, and sorting it out that I'm looking at, because it is cost. It will involve a lot of cost to remove that 1 pole, because we are not looking at the pole again, not 1 pole now, but all other poles that surround that particular pole. Because the wire coming from them, they have to disconnect the wire from somewhere to remove before they install again elsewhere. That's money. So I think on the part of the government, I would rather still look at the possibility of sorting it out amicably. Of course, it means parting with compensation. But if it means that we are paying 10 naira before, then now we don't mind to pay 15 naira, because the cost of removing and reinstalling may go to 50 naira, which is a loss. That's my opinion, sir.
Thank you. Okay, your own opinion. Let's hear you.
Yes, sir. So, sir, I just want to go further on the issues that we've raised.
Yeah.
One issue is the distinction between public interest and a private organization is going to make profit from an installation. As much as the electricity project might be for public interest, we all have to consider the fact that the organization involved is going to make it from it. That's one. Two, I'm looking at issues like the valuation of the value of an individual's private estate, because once and there's a life issue that I'm experiencing where a transmission tower has been mounted, not on the right of way, not on public road, but in private, they've been encroached on private estates.
Yeah.
And because of that installation, approvals have not been given for
Construction.
the private owners build it exactly. They said it
Yeah.
has to be 100 meters away from the tower.
Yeah.
So once that installation is done, it's not enough to just maybe give right of way or compensate for using that small space. But that installation has devalued that property.
Yeah.
So the owners of the property can no longer use it for the purpose they had wanted to use it for. Probably they already had approval, but now they all may have to be revoked because of that attention. The question now will be, were the owners sleeping when installation was made? But sometimes people abandon their properties for a while. You go back and something has been installed. The onus, I think, is on the electricity company, like in this case, TCN, Transmission
Yes.
Commission of
Company of
Nigeria.
Nigeria. Yeah.
Yes. Onus is on them to engage stakeholders and ensure that they are not on private property. And if they use private property, to do proper allocation and compensation before erecting their towers.
Yeah. Thank you for your contribution. And the argument you just made makes a lot of sense to me. Number one, before they even install such things, they should have a layout of the area to know which one falls in private property and which one is the common road, where everybody has a right of way, But in Nigeria, people don't do things properly. There is a situation that I know where some people, according to the story, they couldn't make progress on the land because of the high tension wire that passed by the land. It's not really on the land, but it's to the edge of the land. And because of that, for that reason, they couldn't really make progress. And it's been problematic. Now the new owner was able to navigate that problem, and they had to order the power line, to move away from the land, connected to another point, and now linked up to another. But now it has to go across the road rather than along the side of the road. So I intentionally raised this so that we can see some of the possible problems when it comes to land and electricity matters. So well, it's been an interesting discussion. you know. So, and this is the way we should be discussing issues. They are life issues. You see, everything that's written in the paper, anybody can get it in terms of the law. No, the laws are inside the paper. If I ask everyone to go and check out the law, we will likely write the same thing. But the question is, this life situations, how do we navigate? How do we look at it? Because as lawyers, for example, these are the issues that will come up, that you have to solve problems. You don't solve problems only by looking at the law, but you look at the law in relation to the life issues that are that are coming up. For example, if the power line, or let us power line is different from the high tension wire. The high tension wire, the power line is a bigger stuff. It's a more expensive stuff. If the high tension wire, for example, passes on the land but close to the border, meanwhile there is space. That can still be used, on the where there's right of way, but somebody has built along that line, which can be used, which is legal. So what happens? Do they demolish that one? So these are the issues, and there are situations whereby some people are so powerful that they build on the road where the power line is supposed to pass, which now limits the right of the person who actually owns the land to be able to put the power line on the path that it should pass. So I raised that issue for us to just be able to judge and look at all these issues. So is there another person that wants to make a contribution on this before I move to the next paper? Okay, if there is no other person,
Sorry, sir. I want to ask. Sorry, sir. I want to ask, how do I resubmit my hard copy to you, sir?
Just drop it in my pigeonhole. I'll pick it up. Pigeonhole at the porter's
In
lodge,
the faculty or?
the faculty.
Okay, sir.
Because if I say
Okay.
bring it to my office, you may come when I'm not there.
Okay, sir.
That will introduce some confusion. Just drop it at the pigeonhole. I picked some of these papers up from the pigeonhole, and that will be okay. So thank you, Mr. Darashuku.
Thank you, sir.
I look through the paper generally. I think
Okay, sir.
but let me observe that in current writing style, when you have an abstract, you should also include the keywords. Did you get that?
Okay, sir.
Also include
Yes,
the key.
sir.
Yes. So maybe when
Yeah.
you want to bring it now, you should
Okay.
amend the abstract page and put the keywords. So thank you very much. Let's move on to
He was.
group number. We just took
Okay,
group
thank you,
number
sir.
21, Abi.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So class rep, which other group is available now? Is 24 now
23,
available?
23 is available, sir.
23.
20,
23.
24 is not available.
Yes, sir. 23
23.
is available.
What's the time for 23? Do I have the paper?
It was submitted at the faculty earlier today, sir.
No, I don't have that one. No. So you came to my office now. You just show me 23.
Your pigeonhole, sir.
After I left.
I'm not sure what time. I
No.
just dropped it at the pigeonhole.
No, you shouldn't have. You came to my office now. You came to my office. Why did you bring it to the office? If you brought it to my office, you'll have known whether I was still there or had left. I told you I wasn't going to stay in the office to conduct this lecture.
My apologies, sir. I was under the impression that we were told to submit it at inside your pigeonhole.
No, but you came to my office now, Mr. Class rep.
No, this is not the classroom.
Why did you not stop at the porter's lodge and not come up? You came to my office.
No, sir. Sir, this is someone else. The person speaking is the
Oh, okay,
presenter
not
for
the class
20.
rep.
When I came to your office, the papers I met in your pigeon were just two, 24 and I think 28.
I
And
left.
those were the only papers I brought to you. So the other persons who called me that they were coming with their paper, I directed them that they should take it, bring it directly to you before 1 p.m.
Okay. No problem. No problem. Please give me a minute. Somebody is calling me. Looks like it's urgent. I'll just give me a minute. I beg you. Give me a minute. Let me pick this call. Thank you. Yes. Sorry. Okay. What? I'm not sure. Do I have the soft copy?
The soft copy was submitted on the group chat on Tuesday, sir.
On Tuesday. Okay. What's the title? I was listing the soft copies I had or I have, and I'm not sure. What's the
Electricity,
title of
electricity consumer rights and protection.
it's not one of the ones that I have. Oh. Class rep, did you send it to me? Class rep,
No,
want to hear
sir.
your voice,
No,
oh? Eh?
no, sir. No, sir. It was submitted days after I had forwarded the other one,
Can
the
you
one you
can you
have.
can you can you send it now since the man is in class and it's
Yeah,
ready?
let me
Send it to my
forward to
WhatsApp.
you.
I'll open it. Then we'll move on. Let's be proactive.
You said that's 23, right?
Paper 23.
No,
Okay.
send all the soft copies to my WhatsApp so that when we have this kind of situation, I can just open it up and
Okay, sir.
yeah.
Okay, I'm forwarding the 23 to you now, sir.
Well, no problem. I'll open it. I'll see it. I'm waiting to receive. Okay, it's in now. Okay, I have it. Let's see
All right,
consumer
sir.
rights and protection. So,
Yes, sir.
um, are you Mr. Denika or Motayo?
I am Omotayo, sir. I'm Omotayo Akeriwa. Mr. Denka is also a member of the group as well. We both prepared the documents.
Okay, okay. So now you may start your presentation, please.
Thank you, sir. Uh,
You're welcome.
good evening. Good evening, sir. Good evening, class. My name is Omotayo, and I'll be presenting seminar paper 23 on behalf of Group 23. And the topic says electricity consumer rights and protection. Our paper is divided into 5 parts. We have part 1, which focuses on the introduction, part which focuses on the overview of global perspective. The third part focuses on the electricity sector, consumer rights and protection in Nigeria, while the fourth part focuses on the challenges of the sector of the consumer rights in Nigeria, while the fifth focuses on conclusion and recommendations. I will move quickly to giving an overview of consumer rights and protection. So consumer rights and protection it has its deep roots in history. Is a modern term, and of course, it has taken different dimensions in recent times. In modern commercial, trading, and industrial economies, consumers remain the essence and the drivers and backbone of demand and supply, supply dynamics of economic activity. Um, so we will also be discussing this, making a few references to literatures that have been written on this subject of consumer protection, and some of them include those done by M.F. Ladan, who describe consumer protection as the provision of appropriate and effective mechanisms to protect the pecuniary health, safety, and security interests of all legal persons against misleading, fraudulent, and harmful business practices, including manufacturing, trading, and the likes. Moye also in his paper, that's Law of Consumer Protection. The citation is also provided in our book. In our paper, also describe consumer protection as a concept that of safeguarding as a concept of safeguarding the interest of the consumer in matters relating to the supply of goods and services, fraudulent and hazardous practices, as well as environmental degradation. And so I would want to go too much into what consumer rights is. I believe many of us are familiar with that, and we'll just go straight into the nature of electricity consumer rights protection. So electricity consumer rights protection by itself, of course, electricity itself is a consumer product, just like any other product, and it is, of course, vital to our national it's vital to our national development as a people, and it's also vital to our well-being. And as an utility service, electricity distribution should be guided by. It's expected that it's guided by fairness, efficiency, and accountability, just like any other service. And in Nigeria, consumers before now and even now are faced with numerous challenges, including frequent power outages, inflated billing, and poor customer service. So strengthening consumer rights and protection mechanism is very critical to improving public confidence and participation in the electricity market. So the summary of what electricity consumer rights is all about in this context, or in light of our presentation, is it involves ensuring that consumers have access to safe, reliable, and fairly priced electricity services, while also being shielded from exploitation and unsafe practices. And the recent Electricity Act of 2023 has provided, it is expected that it provide some respite to electricity consumers. But as time goes on, because of my presentation, we'd also see one or two things provided in the law. I'll be talking about the global perspective to consumer rights and protection. And we'll start by noting that it has its origin, or it has its background in 20th century. And consumers had minimal opportunity and platform at the time to protect themselves against faulty or defective products, or against misleading or deceptive advertising methods. In modern economies, this has taken a different form, and of course, all over the world, the countries are about to put legislations in place to guide and guard against exploitations of various forms. And in India, for instance, the idea of consumer protection is as basic as human rights to them. And of course, this can also be seen in Gandhi's consumer protection crusade against exploitation, Gandhi's exploitation crusade against consumer exploitation in India markets. And we can also make reference back to the Consumer Bill of Rights, which was championed by former U.S. President John F. Kennedy as well, that laid for fundamental consumer rights. Similarly, we also have a few United Nations charters and guidelines that speaks to consumer protection. Some of these you will find in our paper. So beyond just making references to the US, making references to India, also in Africa, we have a robust electricity consumer protection framework, as we have in Rwanda and Kenya. The policymakers in 2021 adopted a mobile complaint system for electricity consumers. Particularly in Kenya, consumers can report and lodge their complaints on electricity issues via a mobile application, which they call Empower, or by using USSD code. Just like we have our own USSD code in Nigeria, they were using, or they have been using that USSD code to make complaints and get consumer rights protected as well. Moving away from that, I will be going straight into my chapter 3, which talks about the Nigeria electricity sector, a brief overview of the legal, regulatory, and institutional framework. Of course, the whole essence of consumer protection rights has its origin, or has its roots in the new Electricity Act 2023. The legal and regulatory framework of Nigeria's electricity sector is guided by this act. And this act, the Electricity Act of 2023, it's a successor to a previous regime of Electric Power Sector Reform Act, which has now become obsolete. This new regime has also empowered states across Nigeria to also enact their own electricity law, and while also giving them powers to, of course, provide for consumer protection rights in their laws. And an example of such state is Lagos State Electricity Law 2024, which has provided a few rights within the law, such as consumer complaint resolution. It has provided for billing and payment standards, disconnection and reconnection procedures, compensation for undelivered service, protection for disadvantaged consumers, and a few others. And still speaking about the legal and regulatory framework, we also have the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act, which is the primary agency responsible for consumer protection in Nigeria. And so they also provide some form of assistance to electricity consumers as well. Similarly, under the Electricity Act, we also have under the electricity sector, we also have the Customer Protection Regulations, that's the CPR 2023, which also provides a few things just to safeguard the rights of consumers. We also have Meter Asset Provider and National Mass Metering Regulations 2021. We have those legislations and those guidelines for the protection of consumers within the electricity sector. Of course, just like the acts, the regulatory authorities, also the NERC, that's the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. We have the Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading, and we have the Federal FCCPC, which is the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission as well. Moving on to the rights now, there are various rights, and electricity rights, I will be starting with just a few of them. The first is the right to timely connection of premises to electricity supply. Some persons might not know, but as part of the right of electricity consumers in Nigeria, every consumer is accorded that right to prompt and safe and reliable connection to electricity upon demand of it. We also have many other rights, such as safeguard from illegal and wrongful disconnection. So meaning that the discos can't just come into your compound and cut off your lights just whenever they feel like. There has to be some procedures. There has to be some things some steps that have been taken. You must have done some certain contraventions. So there's a safeguard against illegal and wrongful disconnection. We also have the right to be given accurate bills, meaning you have the right to be given the bills for what you've used. As we are all aware that, or as we want to know that there are various bands, within the electricity sector. You have a band A, band B, band C, and the likes. So you have to be billed for the band which you belong to. So if you are given inaccurate bill, if you are band E or you are band D, and you're being given the electricity, your consumption is reading that of band A, you have a right to make complaints. We also have a right to request for a review of your bill. It's still, of course, related to the right to be given accurate bills. So there are many other rights, and I think lastly, as part of the rights, I should also mention the right to metering. So these codes are according to the Meter Asset Provider 2018 framework. These codes are obligated to reimburse customers that pay for meters by means of energy credits. So, I mean, you can look into our paper to see more about that. Of course, there are various challenges to electricity consumer rights in Nigeria. Some of them we've also highlighted in our book, in our paper, which includes inadequate infrastructure, policy and regulatory issues, financial constraints, lack of consumer awareness, and of course, the dispute resolution mechanism is very poor, and it could go on and on and on. It could be very cumbersome sometimes, and it's quite slow. I'm moving on to our conclusion and recommendation now. Of course, Nigeria has made quite a good effort in terms of bringing our consumer rights, our electricity consumer rights protection to be at par with global standards. However, we are yet to get there. We believe that if certain things that we've stated in our paper is that if they are addressed, we might just be on our way to getting there. We've made a few recommendations, and we've said that a likely solution for consumer awareness and knowledge about their rights and the protection available under the law is to encourage consumer education both at the literate and illiterate levels at both rural and urban areas across the country. And we expect that as part of this consumer education, that they should be at the literate or the rural level should be handed over to the traditional rulers and institutions. Then the National Orientation Agency has work to do. Then the information officers at various local governments. These are things they ought to be doing as well. And so we believe that they should be mandated to hold regular local meetings where communities discuss pertinent matters. Then we have formal technicians who can help the informal technicians to educate community members during these meetings. Then, of course, our national body, the Nigerian Bar Association as lawyers, also has a role to play through its energy sector, its energy section, in terms of consumer advocacy programs, every now and then. And so above all, in conclusion, we've given recommendations on how to strengthen regulatory, on what needs to be done to further improve our to improve electricity consumer rights in Nigeria.
Sorry, your time is up. You talk about
Let him conclude. It's almost concluding.
Yes, so you will see all those recommendations in our paper.
Let him conclude. Almost concluding. Yeah.
Yes, so you will see those recommendations in our paper, such as to strengthen regulatory enforcement and coordination. We need to expand consumer education awareness. We need to institutionalize consumer participation. Of course, just like Kenya and just like in Kenya and Rwanda that we made reference to, we need to also digitize our complaint and redress system. We need to start probably also employing the use of USSD code. I don't need to go to Kenya Disco before my complaint is addressed and the likes. Then, of course, we need to promote metering and eliminate estimated billing, improve our infrastructure and service delivery. Amongst others, you'll see all those in our paper. So thank you very much. That will be all for Group 23. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Motayo. Thank you for the presentation. I will say that I enjoyed your presentation because yes, it's unlike maybe you've been doing this over time. Some people come and read to us everything, but what you do is to master the main points and give it to us. This paper is expected to have been circulated to other members of the class, and they believe that it's also the expectation that they will have read it. So when you present, it's just to touch on the important parts of it, not to be touching all the details, and they will expect that everybody will follow. At any rate, I want to also say that this is a live issue. It's a problem that we are all confronted with almost on a daily basis in Nigeria. The problem of metering, the problem of timely attending to complaints and the rest of them. So I want to thank you for the presentation. Now I want to open discussions to the class. So let us hear people who want to hear your contributions, and if you have questions for the presenter, let us have it. Thank you. Any contribution? Any contribution? Hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Yes,
We
sir.
can hear you, sir.
Okay. Well, I believe that the issues discussed are all generally known. I mean, I'm not sure there's anybody in this class who will not know about all these problems. So, but we can still give us some input. Perhaps you have a particular experience or somebody who has, and you discuss it in relation to what we have listened to. That's what makes the class enjoyable. Otherwise, somebody presents, anybody cannot speak, and we just say pass, and we are through. So I'm just waiting to hear some contributions.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
My name is Adeyinka Ajayi. I'm the colleague of Omota.
Colleague, you're the partner, yeah, I can see.
Just to drop my voice in, I am very indisposed and I've just struggled to be in the class.
Oh, sorry about that. And we appreciate you for coming, in spite
Thank,
of your situation.
thank you, sir.
Welcome.
I really have nothing useful to add to the presentation ably rendered by my colleague. Save to say, sir, that we looked at service level agreements and their import in consumer protection in the electricity sector.
Yeah.
But it would open up a very large vista, which we assumed is outside the scope of our topic. So we stylishly excluded service level agreements within the industry.
Yeah.
And we also mentioned the controversy between the Federal Consumer Protection Council and the NERC, the dichotomy in their laws, which appears to give superiority to the FCPC over NERC. And the general view is supposed to be that the NERC is the one-stop shop for electricity. But we again didn't go deep into that because it would open up it would open up a different vista.
Yeah.
The authorities that we found were all under the former regime. The Electricity Act is just new.
Yeah.
And so we just assume that we're clever to avoid going into that.
Okay, thank you very much for your contribution. So it's clear that we won't have any further contributions. So as far as I'm concerned, the paper contains substance
Thank you.
that is good for us. But we have to look beyond the body of the work. We also have to look at the footnotes, and I quickly went through the footnotes, and I found out that your footnoting style is not very okay. You need to master referencing. It's very, very important. For example, if you look at your footnote number 30, you just see page 145. Ugweze Onubuleze, Journal of Law Policy, blah, 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 blah. That's not the way to cite authorities, to cite sources. You need to master that. And I'm saying this because soon, or perhaps even now, you are already working on your projects, and then we have a project guide. So I expected to see signs that you have mastered the project guide, especially when it comes to referencing. And these are things that even I believe you must have been taught at the undergraduate level. So we expect that at this level it should show very well that you have mastered it. So if you want to for example, reference a journal, this is not the way to go about it. You have to put the names of the author, then the journal, the year of the journal, and the relevant the journal, the title of the paper or article, as the case may be, then the year of the journal and the citation of the journal, then the relevant page. It's very, very important. Then most of your, in fact, most if not all of your internet sources. Number one, if you go to internet, you find a source. There must be somebody who has published that information. It could be NRSC. If you got it from the NERC website, for example, they are the authors. You have to put them as the author. You have to put the title of the of the work, article or report, as the case may be. Then you now have to put the website where you got it. I must also now put the date that you access the website. There is nothing like that here. So it does not make your paper look good enough, especially for publication purposes. So that's my just looking through everything. If you look at footnote number 17, it's just HTTPS, placing blah 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 blah. Who is the author of the work? There is no author there. There will always be an author. It's either an institution or an individual, and it will have a title. And you put the title, then you can now put the site. And the essence of this is, if I'm reading through your work, for example, and I see that reference, and I consider it also useful for me. I can't see the details in your paper, but when you put the citation correctly, I can now Google it, then go there and see the things that I need. So if you look at footnote number 14, for example, it's not. Anyway, let me just say that you need to master referencing and cross-referencing. It's very, very important. This kind of will not
Well
be
noted, sir. Well
so.
noted, sir.
So thank you very much. It has a lot of information, but the referencing should be better done. Thank you. So let's
Thank you,
move
sir.
to the next group. What group is available now? What group is available? Which group is
Sir,
available?
group 26. Group 26 is
26.
available. Yes, sir.
Group
26.
25 is here, sir.
Group
25 has
25
come.
is available.
Yes, sir. 25
Okay.
is done, sir.
That's Falade
Yes, sir.
Yes, and
And
Odushola.
happiness.
and Odusola.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, let's check you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Let's check
Good
you.
evening, Doc and distinguished colleagues. We are of Group 25. Falade Olugbenga is my name. I have on the loop Odushola Happiness. We are together. And our topic is legal issues in independent power projects in Nigeria. The researchers divided their work into 5 parts, and Odushola will take the first 2, while Falade will take the last 3. So Odushola, please, you have the floor.
All within 10 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm Odushola Happiness. Our work has 5 chapters in it. I'm sorry, I'm a bit indisposed right now. And we'll be taking you through these chapters. Just a moment.
So we have an introduction. Part two tells us about the legal and institutional framework. Part three talks about the key legal challenges facing IPPs in Nigeria. While we have part four, the comparative analysis of legal models for successful
Odusola,
IPIs.
allow me to interrupt you. Why don't you just go to the meat of your presentation? You see, you are spending time before this introduction.
Okay.
That it is assumed that members of the class have read this paper.
Okay, sir.
And it is not strange to them. So just go to the meat of your paper and then give it to us.
All right, sir. So the legal issues in independent power projects. So we looked at the main legal obstacles facing the IPPs in Nigeria, the poor enforcement of contracts, involved in this sector, the regulatory uncertainties, the non-cost effective tariffs, and overlapping institutional powers, and the challenges relating to land acquisitions and the environmental compliances. Well, we talked about the comparative insights from the jurisdictions such as South Africa, India, Brazil, and other countries that operates as where the IPPs operate, and you know, look, looking at these countries and the successes they've achieved in attaining a more sustainable legal regimes in their country. So we looked at Nigeria as as an entity and the challenges that we face as a country. It undermines and affects our social and economical development. Because most of the IPIs are privately funded and operated through the private sectors. So they mostly go into commercial agreements and priorities. What is it? The between the government and most IPIs sometimes. Then we looked at the Nigeria Bulk Electricity Trading Company, the process involved in securing the licenses, financing it, the regulatory approvals, and other land and environmental permits, to be attained in handling such IPIs, IPPs, I mean. The Nigeria Electricity is operated through a vertically integrated monopoly, and usually was probably state owned, which was run by NEPA. Then it was later renamed into PHCN. So these are most of the issues that we see from the changing of one name, then the to another, and different reforms. So the electricity Act of 2023 actually, came to mitigate some of all this ambiguity and the enforceability of, some of the obligations that ensure or during the course of, um, running all of this. Then we in our chapter one, we looked at the regime of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu when he enacted the Electricity Act into law, which repelled various other status. Then we also looked at a part of the legal and international frameworks. We also looked at the constitutional amendments and the federal state legislative powers, the licensing regimen specific to IPPs, renewable energy incentives, pricing and their procurement, the obligations, institutional nomenclatures, the environmental um, the environmental use and the taxation and regime. That was what we looked at in our part 1 and part 2 of our work. So I'll pass the baton over to my colleague to take us through the chapters 3 to 5.
Thank you very much, Odushola.
Yes.
In chapter 3, the researchers looked at the key legal challenges facing IPPs in Nigeria, and they looked at 5 key challenges centered on uncertainty in regulatory and policy regimes.
I can't hear anybody speak again. Oh, presenter, can anybody hear him? Or am I the only one can't hear him?
No, sir. I think his network is bad. I can actually take it up from the past 3. We looked at the key legal challenges facing the IPPs in Nigeria. It still boiled down to the same uncertainty in the regulatory and policy regimens, policies inconsistencies, suspensions of previously approved tariffs, reversal of reversal of previous approved licenses and overlapping mandates. We also looked at the enforcement of contractual obligations, e.g. the Azura Edo IPP contract. Then we looked at tariffs, settling and cost reflective pricing, the legal risk in financing, and the bankabilities of the IPP projects. We looked at the legal risks surrounding the currency conversion that's, due to the inconsistency and unstable conversion rate of the naira. So we also looked at that in our work. Then we also looked at the dispute resolution mechanisms that have been put in place and their effectiveness, and to the extent in which they are actually effective. Then we also looked, like I said previously, we looked at the successful IPPs in other jurisdictions, and the regimens they put in place to actually ensure that all this comes into fruition, like the procurement program of South Africa, India's legal and institutional framework for solar IPPs, and Brazil's energy action models for IPPs. And we also, talked about a way to.
You have a minute left, please.
Yeah, we also talked about a way into fusing it into the Nigerian sector. Then coming to a conclusion and our recommendations, we talked about the strengths, the means to strengthen the legal framework for contract enforcement, the introduction of compliance and a more seamless process, and enhancing the legal framework for tariff regulations and cost recovery, which is quite important. Then improving the access to land and environmental compliance mechanisms. So all these and many more, were the things we included in our conclusion in order to ensure that we have, tackled the issue of legal issues in the independent power projects. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. It's a pity that the chief presenter's voice was muted by network problems. But thank God for the able partner for this other happiness
Yes.
who made us happy by ensuring that we are not left stranded.
Yes,
Imagine
sir.
if it was just Mr. Falade presenting or Dr. Falade. would just have been hanging there, waiting and unsure of what to do. So I think I want to be sure now. We have taken how many papers now? We took 21, 23. This 20,
25, sir.
this 25.
Yes, sir.
Did you take 24? No, we have not taken 24.
No, no,
Okay.
sir.
So yours is the third paper.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to suggest that we take one more paper, then we discuss both of them together and close for the day. So which other group is available now?
Group
25,
26, sir.
26. Okay, 26. Let me see. What's the title of your work?
Solar energy and its potentials for sustainable electricity in Nigeria.
Okay, I'm trying to, if I have. Okay. Yeah, fire on. I have the soft copy. Move on.
Okay, sir. So my work is divided into 5 parts. Chapter 1, which is introduction. Chapter 2, overview of renewable energy in Nigeria. Chapter 3 is, okay, sorry, 4 parts. Chapter 3 is talking about solar energy potentials for sustainable electricity generation in Nigeria, where I talked about the current utilization and project, challenges to solar energy development, and the legal framework of solar energy in Nigeria. Then chapter 4, I talked about the conclusion and recommendations. So as a way of starting, Nigeria has a population of over 220 million people, and the national grid is barely enough to produce the electricity needed for the whole population. However, Nigeria has a very good supply of sunlight, which is actually, in fact, it's actually one of the highest.
Hello?
Hello?
Who is
Hello?
on? Is that
Falade is back, sir.
we have finished your presentation now, so we
Yay!
are
Yay!
we are
Wow.
on to the
Yay!
next paper, but your paper and the next paper will be discussed together, to
Okay.
bring that to a close. So
All right.
your colleague took over and did very well on your
Okay.
behalf. So
All right. Thank
don't
you.
be bothered.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
Okay.
please continue. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So Nigeria possesses one of the highest levels of solar radiation in the world. Situated within the tropical belt, the country receives around 3.5 to 7.5 kilowatts of hours of solar energy. However, despite this enormous potential, solar energy is still vastly underutilized in Nigeria due to some bottlenecks. My chapter 2, I talked about overview of renewable energy in Nigeria. So what is solar energy? Solar energy is the radiant light and heat that is harnessed and generated from the sun using different technologies like solar heating, thermal, and photovoltaic technologies. It is used by plants during photosynthesis, commonly also used by humans for drying clothes, cooling, for lighting, and different things. So we have different technologies for harnessing solar energy. There are two main leading technologies for harnessing solar energy: the active and the passive. They can be classified into active or passive according to how they are used. So for active technologies, it includes the use of solar PV panels and thermal solar collectors to collect energy from the sun. Among the passive technologies, there are different techniques which include bioclimatic architecture, that is trying to face the buildings towards the sun to generate heat. Also using materials that have good thermal mass, or materials that can trap sunlight or heat. So I also talked about explained how the photovoltaic technology is used, and also discussed also the solar thermal technology, which is all in my seminar paper. Then moving forward, I discussed the advantages of use of solar energy. So number one is that it reduces reliance on fossils, leading to a reduction of pollution. It is also sustainable, unlimited, and renewable. the use of solar is a good form of conserving and protecting the environment because there is no emission of gases or land pollution. Also, it is more economical. Once after it is installed, it is economical because there's no need to buy fuel. Um, then also, it is cheaper to install solar than connecting underserved or rural houses to the national grid. So it's easier to just to install standalone solar panels. Then for the disadvantages, some solar panels can't generate electricity at night or on cloudy days. However, nowadays people now use batteries to capture solar energy that was generated during the day, or they can also use alternative renewable energy source like wind. Then another disadvantage is the fixed solar panels, which actually, because there's some panels that are just fixed on one part. So for example, now if the sun moves over to the maybe if the panel is fixed in the west part of in the west in the western rooftop of the house, or in the west part, and the sun moves over to the east, the the solar PV won't be able to capture enough sun. But now there's a new technology of floating panels which kind of follow the sunlight as the sun is moving. So another advantage is environmental pollution, and the acquisition cost is expensive. That is, the installation and acquisition cost is expensive. So I talked about chapter 3. In my chapter 3, I talked about the solar energy potentials for sustainable electricity generation. Like water and air, the sun is the basis of life on Earth. Solar energy supplies the Earth and its atmosphere with enough energy every 50 minutes to meet the annual consumption of the Earth inhabitants. The challenge is actually in capturing even a tiny fraction of this radiant energy. Nigeria is very endowed with solar energy, but yet there is there is high underutilization of solar technology in Nigeria. Despite this availability of solar power resources in the country, solar PV installation is limited and very dispersed. More than 80% of the installations belong to the government agencies for water pumping, street lighting, and vaccine refrigerators, etc. As for the current utilization of solar power in
Hello,
Nigeria, sir?
hello. You have less than 2 minutes.
Okay. So for the current utilization of solar power in Nigeria, number one is the off-grid and rural electrification initiatives, where I talked about the Solar Power Nigeria, the Rural Electrification Agency and Nigeria Electrification Project, the grid-connected utility-scale solar, like the Convoso solar plant, Abiba solar power in Kaduna, Ashama solar power station, and all of that. Then I talked about the challenges to solar energy development in Nigeria. One is the financial roadblocks. Developers often struggle to raise capital. There is lack of capital, and most commercial banks, they have very high interest rates. Also, lack of skilled labor. That is a big barrier to solar development in Nigeria. We also have ignorance, security, and vandalism. Most solar technologies are vandalized and destroyed by rural miscreants. We also have requirement of large expanse of land and the long life storage and long distance transportation. So I have some more challenges there. When I talk about the legal framework and institutional bodies, number one legal framework. Um, okay, in Nigeria, there is no single law actually that governs solar energy usage. However, the legal regime is governed by a variety of laws, policies, regulations, and directives, some of which I talked about. One is the Renewable Energy Master Plan 2005. Two is the Rural Electrification Strategy and Implementation Plan. Three is the National Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Policy. Four, National Renewable Energy Action Plan. Five, Electricity Act. Then and the NEP that was just recently adopted by the federal government. Also, the institutional bodies. We have the NEC, the Rural Electrification Agency, and the ECN and Ministry of Power. Then I also talked about, okay, in my conclusion and recommendation, recommended by way of saying that there should be funding and certification like establishing renewable energy vocational training institutes. Also the government can also provide grants, scholarship, and low-interest education loans for individuals interested in pursuing careers in solar energy sector, and also enforcing mandatory certification and licensing. 2, consumer credit scheme. Leveraging consumer credit arrangements can help tackle the slow development of solar energy in Nigeria. To facilitate a nationwide rollout of solar systems, the government can actually create a scheme where consumers have access to credit facilities at concessionary interest rates. Then also green financing. Finance institutions like the World Bank and the African Development Bank can offer low interest, long tenure loans for energy project. Then also fiscal incentives. Incentives such as tax holidays, import duty exemptions for solar equipment, and other incentives can actually promote solar energy adoption. Then also an enactment of a legal framework. The enactment of a steady legal framework can actually stimulate and provide for a more stable and
Time up. Oh. Time is up.
okay, I'm done.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was speaking. I didn't know that I was muted. So, so thank you very much for the presentation. So we have two papers to discuss. The one just presented and the one presented before this one. That is the one of independent power projects. So whoever has a contribution or question, excuse me. Whoever has contribution or questions could bring them up. We'll discuss it.
Doc, I just want to chip in something that just happened recently. That
Okay.
is
I can't hear you again, no. Network. Is it your network or my can anybody hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, sir.
I think
We can hear you.
Dr. is off again. Hmm. Okay, let somebody else come in. When he comes back, we'll hear him. Any other contributor? Any other contributor on any of the...
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm with you.
I just have a comment on the last presentation, sir.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes. I note. Okay, sir. So I know that one of the recommendations was to have World Bank and other development financing institutions to support solar power and the likes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm aware that renewable energy product is essential. So I'm aware that World Bank currently does that through some programs with Rural Electrification Agency. They offer grants to solar power to mini grid developers, and they've been doing that, I think, before, and they are currently still doing that. And I also know that some development finance institutions like BII, that's a British investment, they also offer financing to these developers as well. That's just my contribution.
Yeah, thank you very much. Your point is actually well made. Well made. Maybe the presenter is trying to tell us that they should increase their financing. But I know that there are partners, who come into, because it's the in now, and we have finance institutions who are willing to finance such projects. Yeah. So, any more contribution?
this rubbish network is frustrating me.
Yes,
Uh,
but thank God you're back. Let's hear you now.
about few days ago, just to buttress the fact that there is no cooperation between the federal and state governments, concerning the issue of tariff. Enugu State, the Enugu Electricity Regulatory Commission reduced the tariff, for Band A, and it caused an uproar. The NERC they kicked against it, saying that the state governments do not have jurisdiction over national grid. So there is still no agreement. It's just to buttress the fact that the federal and state do not agree on the issue of tariff. I don't know if we had that over the news.
You're off again.
And I can hear you, sir.
Okay.
So I've made the point just to buttress the fact that the ambiguity is not cleared. There's no agreement between the two, despite the fact that states have been
empowered.
allowed to. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's what I want to chip in there.
Yeah, thank you. It's an option well made, because if the provisions were clear, there wouldn't be all these kind of problems when the state government and federal government will appear to be acting at cross purposes. Any other contributor?
Yes, sir. Just to piggyback on what Dr. Falade has said with respect to the Enugu State and the federal government having some form of clash. It is the best interest of the NESI, Nigerian Electricity Supply Industry, to ensure that both the federal government and state government come to a consensus or work together. In fact, during the enactment of the Electricity Act and part of the preparatory processes, there was this perception or this forward-thinking approach of having somewhat a joint electricity regulatory commission, because this is one of the things stakeholders in the industry have always thought about. If the federal government, that's NEC, says something and the state electricity regulatory body says another thing. Although we understand that the state regulatory bodies are independent with respect to the jurisdiction, they are states, but there are far-reaching implications of, and this is why the NEC sometimes just try to see how both parties could work together. I think 3 classes ago or 4 classes ago, I mentioned some funds, some facilities that have been disbursed by CBN prior to now to the discos, and because we now have a decentralized system whereby the discos are meant to incorporate subcos in various states, and that subcos will be under the oversight of the state electricity regulator. And if both the federal government and state government do not harmonize and work together, then it might be difficult to reparate funds that have been disbursed to the discos, because one of the ways which those funds can be repaid to the creditors or the lenders is through the tariff that comes from those subcos. So we just hope to see that both the national body, which is NEC, and each state regulator try to work together to ensure that there is some level of stability in the NESI. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much. That's a very good one. Because basically, if they don't cooperate, there will always be problems. So basically, the federal body and the state body are supposed to work together. The discourse, as we know, a lot of them are in debt. I think the government body, what's this body that's in charge of taking charge of all these debtor companies now?
AMCON, I think
The AMCON,
AMCON.
yes. AMCON is contemplating selling off some of them because they don't seem to have the capacity, which they are expected to have. And they are debts and they must pay. So the differences must be reconciled, so that there will be a balance. So any other contributor? Okay. Let's take it that we don't have other contributors. The presentations were okay, and I think they contained a lot of substance useful to us. But I also want to emphasize again that for the footnotes, it's important that we do it right. If you check your project guide, it's really very informative, and it gives you an idea how to put your references. The references in the paper on solar energy appears better than the other one, but there are still places that need some correction, but to a large extent, the references here are very okay. But I think, like I noticed, the one on the independent power project, the resin still needs, a lot of work to be done. Even though I'm not saying that it's also bad, but there are a few places that I think, for example, there are places where you just have the website. There's no website without an author. It could be an institution, it could be an individual. So you have to start first. You either put the institution or the author, who could be an individual, before you now put the title and now give the website the website, and again the date when you consulted the website. So, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't expect that we'll be in class this time, but I want to say that we have done well today. And next week, no probability will also be doing virtual, because I'm not likely to be in Lagos at that time. I will be away on a university assignment. So I thank you all for coming to class today, and hope to meet you again virtually next week.
Thank
Thank
you,
you very
sir.
much. Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Doctor.
sir.
Thank you. So
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Class rep, please encourage those
Thank you, sir.
who have not. As it is, I won't be able to have hard copies now because I won't be around to pick them up. But as you send the soft copies to the WhatsApp, I will be able to open them and see them as we present the papers.
All right,
Thank
sir.
you very
I
much.
will do that.
Thank you very much. Have a good night,
All right.
everybody.
Doctor, on a final shot.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay.
When my spirit is moving this way, I always love to believe it. My spirit is telling me that you will bless us richly towards the examination.
Dr. Falade, you are already a doctor.
I
You are
said,
already blessed. What other academic blessing do you want?
Sir, his spirit is praying for us, sir.
the motion is carried, sir.
No
That's the
problem.
good spirit.
I think we were together last semester, and I'm sure you receive some blessings.
Yes, sir.
So,
Thank you very much, sir.
we'll do the same.
Yes,
At the same time, you should also endeavor to bless yourself with good preparations.
yes, sir.
It's very,
Thank
very
you so
important.
much, doctor.
We
Thank you,
don't
sir.
grade to fail people, but if somebody has failed himself, there's nothing we can do.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
we bend, but we don't break. And
Thank you so much.
we don't want people to just come to class and take certificate and go. We want people to know what they are doing, so that when they get outside of this place, they can speak to the things that they have learned, and then nobody will be asking that, where is this person? The person has LLM now. Where did he get it? Or something like that. So we always get such reactions, especially for undergraduates. They tell us, these students that you are turning out these days. Now, wow. But we can only do our best. So thank you very much, and have a good
sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Have a good night, sir.
Good night.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, colleagues. Good night.